Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 5 minutes after 10 o'clock. I got a little bit of reverb going on here. 6 minutes after 10 o'clock. It's time to talk golf with Jim Beckett. He's in the studio right now to answer your questions. If you would like to ask Jim a question during the course of this show, you are invited to call and ask that question. The number is the WOCA Climate Control Source Hotline. It is 622-9622, 622-WOCA. Good morning, Jim. How you doing?
Good morning, sir. Great morning.
It's 1 week before Thanksgiving.
Isn't it amazing?
It goes fast, huh?
Yeah, this seemed like the 4th of July just yesterday.
Yeah, sure did. So I know it usually doesn't get real cold around here, but I have a temperature question for you.
Okay.
Now, this question actually comes from the Ellen DeGeneres show. Are you familiar with the show?
I am.
The talk show hostess, whatever. Well, she had a young boy on the show, maybe 10, 12 years old. I don't know how old he was, but he invented, I guess that's the right word, a device to keep your golf balls warm when it's cold out under the, I guess, the theory that a ball will go farther if it's not cold. Have you heard that?
Yes, that is, there is some validity to that. The modern golf ball is not affected nearly as much as our previous technology, where the ball had multiple layers, and it had, back in the old days, of course, it had something that looked like rubber bands wrapped around a core.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember taking the ball.
The tighter you wrapped it, the tighter the ball was for distance, and the softer for people who struck the ball with less swing speed.
Uh-huh.
The modern ball, anytime you have any kind of a product that is sensitive to the weather, but the modern ball is using products I don't even know what they are, and it is less affected, but it will feel harder.
Oh, really?
Could be psychosomatic, I don't know, but the old cliche was keep an extra ball in your pocket and change after each hole. That way it gets your body heat, you know. And they even at one time would take the little chemical hand warmers and keep them in your pocket, keep the ball warm.
Really? So there's no rule against it?
No.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of.
Well,
they change the rules so often. I just read yesterday's paper. They put 87 more changes for this year, for the next year.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy.
Well, maybe that's why the article said what it said. It said that the rules were fuzzy as to whether the ball warmer that the child made would even be allowed. And I thought, wow, it's either you can or you can't do it.
Somebody will complain.
You're using a ball warmer, but if you're keeping it in your pocket, it's the same thing.
Actually, it is. The warmer would probably do a better job, obviously.
So are you allowed to switch balls midstream? Like once you've
Actually, the rule came out some years ago. People used to use a hard ball to get more distance off the tee, then a medium ball to play the iron shots to the green, and a softer ball maybe on the putting green, so that the ball didn't bounce off the face as much if you didn't make a perfect stroke, so make the ball roll better. So they came out, you couldn't change the brand nor the composition. You had to have, and matter of fact, you had to have no additional balls in your bag on tour.
Oh, really?
You only have one brand and one model.
Oh, wow.
So there was an advantage. If you were a shorter hitter, the hard ball would travel further. It would roll more on the fairway once you hit it because it was so hard. But if you hit a short iron to the green, it might fly on you further than you wanted it to go, and maybe bounce more. And in putting, it would almost bounce off the face. It would be hard to control. So guys tried that, and they put a ban on that. And that was actually a good ban, I believe.
So what would actually happen if somebody was caught violating a rule like that? Would they get a point added to their score, or?
I don't know if that's a stroke penalty per hole or disqualification. I'm pretty sure it would probably be disqualification.
Really? Totally done. You're done. You're not even in the game anymore.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would try that anymore. It'd be so counterproductive for the small advantage it would give you. So I don't think that would.
Oh, really?
That doesn't mean that you can't do it when you play.
Oh, because it doesn't matter if I play.
Well, if you're not playing in a regular USGA event. Now, many local events will say they're playing with the USGA rules with certain modifications. And so as soon as they modify it, it's not USGA rules to me. So either it is or it didn't.
So if warming it up with body heat makes it go farther, if you warmed it up beyond body heat, like actually had a heater, would it go even farther?
You know, I don't know. I think it would depend a lot on the ball. Depends on the outside temperature too a lot. The colder it gets, the more advantage that would have. So if you're playing in really cold weather,
makes sense, yeah.
if you're playing in just cool weather that's sweater weather and it's not terribly uncomfortable, I think the difference will be pretty minor.
So now I would think that on the moon, when that astronaut, who was the astronaut, Neil Armstrong, hit the ball? Or was it the other?
I believe it was.
Okay, but I mean it's like minus whatever. It's so cold up there, right?
That ball went a long way because the lack of gravity.
Yeah.
Nothing to pull it down.
So it's probably still moving up there, right?
Probably get the ball longest if you hit it inside the capsule because it would never come down.
Oh, yeah, right. The phone line is open if you'd like to speak to Jim. The number is 622-9622 and ask the questions. This is a good time of year, I guess, for somebody to get started, especially if they're snowbirds.
So the only problem with right now is the courses are much more crowded, much busier, and of course the price goes up with volume. So the winter prices are sometimes double of the summer prices.
So there's a bunch more rules. Is there a bunch more equipment available this time of year to stimulate sales for the Christmas season?
You know, I don't know that there's anything that's that specific. It just kind of happens because it's the time of year and the new products are on the horizon, and many golfers think they need the latest version. It's kind of like the computer stuff. They need the latest version to get the maximum. And it's minuscule. If they think so and it floats their boat, so be it. But I don't think it makes a giant difference. Although people that have that will swear they can get 20 more yards. It's kind of like the old Tide commercial. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Which one?
For years, the Tide commercial for soap powder said, the current year got the whites whiter than last year.
Right. I remember that, yeah.
So how many times can you get whiter? Whites. I always thought that was a great commercial. Yeah, and people fell for it over the women did.
Yeah, they don't do it anymore, right?
Get those whites white.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
3 years ago, the whites weren't getting white.
Even though we told you they were, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of funny. So when we buy gifts for a golfer,
yep.
do we waste our money if we buy anything? Like, is there anything out there that nobody really uses? Like that little scope that shows you how far away the ball is. Is that?
That's a nuisance for me. Once again, it's in the eye of the beholder. There is so much stuff that you can buy. Every company's coming up with everything you can think of, and I had to put just a halt to my family, my nieces. And
oh, really?
So, yeah, don't buy any golf stuff.
So you had a lot of stuff. Like what? Like what kind of thing would they buy you?
Oh, they'd buy a little ring that check to make sure the ball was round, and they pay. You could do that with anything, and of course they'd pay $10 for the one that was designed to do that. And I can't remember all the stuff. Specialties and brushes to clean your club, and I just use a towel. I don't need a brush.
So a lot of people when they
you can go to a golf shop and they'll have a blister pack wall packed with stuff, and I'll have to stop and look because I've never even seen some of that stuff. I don't know where they come up with all that.
What do you do with it all, right?
Yeah.
So when a lot of people retire, they say, you know what, I'm going to spend more time golfing. What are you saying when you retire? You already golf all the time.
Well, I've had a thought about retirement that impacted me years ago when I was a younger man. I had a friend who was in the military service, and he worked 2 extra jobs plus his military service. He wanted to get a house paid for, get the wife a new car, bought a piece of land, I mean, everything was pointed toward retirement. And he worked his tail off. And it was in Patrick Air Force Base down in Cocoa Beach. And he got it done, achieved his goals. ended up getting a good paying civilian job. So if it was retiring from the service, it wasn't retiring from retiring.
Right.
2 weeks after there comes Don now. 2 weeks after he got all this done, he keeled over. So he spent 20 years with that as his primary goal in life.
Man.
So I said, I'm not going to do that. But I'm fortunate I've never had any jobs. Everything I've done to make a living is something I've enjoyed doing. So what I do now is not really work. Not in my mind. And yet I put in a significant amount of hours. But it's kind of like your job.
Definitely. I can relate to what you're saying.
Your job is fun.
It is.
Here's Mr. Nix.
Good morning, Don.
Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today?
You found us, huh?
Yes, I did. No problem at all.
Jim said you didn't know where the paddock mall was.
What was it, Chip?
I'm new here.
It's actually the second first mall in Ocala. Yeah, that's hard to explain. Did you know that, Jim? It's the second first mall because when the Cascades opened up,
right,
it was billed as the first mall, and then when this mall opened up, it was billed as the first mall. So, go figure.
Well, it's all in marketing.
Yeah.
Don probably knows about the golf ball. He was asking me the question about keeping the golf ball warm.
Well, a warm golf ball will go farther.
See, I knew he'd have an opinion.
Well, see, the reason I asked is because there was a young boy, 10 or 12 years old, who invented a device. He was on the Ellen DeGeneres show, and he was explained to her that his device will keep a ball, and he had the thing in ice just to prove that the ball was still warm, and she was holding it. I guess you have to take her word for it. It was warmer. And I was thinking, wow, if that's true, why wasn't this invented a long time ago?
Well, understand that my information comes from back in the day when you had a small rubber core and were wound with rubber, with the rubber windings, and then a different outside. The golf ball today is so totally differently constructed that I don't know if that even holds true today, whether a cold or a warm golf ball.
You duplicated my answer.
I'm sorry, I was late today.
See, it's the same thing. I said the same thing. I think it would be minuscule with a golf ball.
I don't think you could tell the difference whatsoever.
Oh, really?
In today's golf ball.
So this boy made an invention too late.
I think he's right. But nobody would have bought it then. Everybody carried the golf balls in their pocket to keep them warm then.
And that's what Jim was saying, too. You just keep them in your pocket.
That's correct.
So there's no rule about changing balls midstream? and
You cannot change a golf ball during the play of that hole. You can only change at the end of that hole that you started with.
Okay.
Unless it's lost,
and then it has to be the same brand and the same model.
That's correct.
So do you ever have guys who end a game, and the loser says to the winner, "Let me see, what kind of ball were you using?" And he changes the ball he uses next time?
Depends on the bet.
That is correct.
Actually, they did that because all the stuff stems either from amateur competition at USGA tournaments or professional competition. In daily play, on average, at the villages, a regular foursome, just pick one at random, probably breaks 150 rules each 9 holes. But they're not aware of all those rules because it's a dictionary of nonsense. It's totally crazy. The original rules are only 11. Now the rule book's 2 inches thick.
11.
Yeah, the 11th rule said, and it covered all the other 400 pages of the rule book. It's a game played by gentlemen, play fair and play honest. And that covered all the rules.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that would make sense, right? Yeah. Do you want to go to the phone? Got a call?
Great.
Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. I just turned on. I wasn't sure how in depth you got about the forming of the golf balls. Do you remember the great line of Johnny Carson when Arnold Palmer's wife was on his show? Johnny Carson asked Mrs. Palmer if she did anything special before the tournaments, and she says, "I always kiss his balls." And Johnny said, "I bet that makes his putter stand up."
Actually, not to be too corrected, that was Jack Nicklaus's wife. And the statement was, "I'll bet that made his putter quiver."
Yeah, I
That's
happened to see that. Yeah, it was sort of
Thank
funny.
you, Bob. And we got another phone call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Well, I'm just getting over laughing. That was pretty good. Like in football, you have a field judge, a line judge, a referee. You got several officials officiating during the game. In a pro golf tournament, how many officials are there, and which one makes the final decision on a given situation?
Are you talking about in a tour tournament?
Yes, yeah, a pro tour tournament, right?
Well, they have permanent officials that have permanent jobs on the tour, and any one of those has the ability and the authority to make a ruling. And if they have doubt, they will have whoever they have assigned as the head official if they don't do it. But I've not seen them have to call that in very often, because just to get that job you had to be a pretty comprehensive expert. So they normally can do that call on site, and there's more than one there to eliminate delay of play. So they have the ability to make that call, and they normally have the book with them if somebody should quiz it, but they usually don't, because most of them can recite the book by memory, so they can call it themselves.
What you're saying is they have a crew of officials that travel with the tournaments from one place to another.
Yes, sir.
And it's a paid position, I would imagine.
I'm assuming it is. I don't know how it can be otherwise. There's one gentleman who's been on the tour for a long time. He's been on the tour for 25 years.
And I would imagine that most of these officials have been probably pro players at one time, or at least avid golfers.
I can't imagine they're not. I don't really know that, but I can't imagine that they're not. Obviously, they probably get professional courtesy when they want to play and play some of the better courses, so that might be part of the perks for the job. But it's an interesting job to have. I just noticed here just recently they're going to stop having this phone-in thing about calling penalties on people because that's incorrect anyway. No one can call a penalty on someone, and that's in the rule book, and that's been there forever. And the other rule has always been, once the scorecard is signed, it's done. Well, they waived that, and this new rule is called the Tiger Woods rule, because they think he was unfairly penalized. Of course, the 478 guys who were penalized before him, that was okay. That's been going on for a long time, and that's a dumb rule, because once you sign a scorecard, it's been attested by one of your playing partners. So if they thought you did something, their responsibility, and they can be disbarred or penalized by not bringing something up. And then the rule, the common rule is you would confront your playing partner and say, I thought such and such happened. If they couldn't come to a conclusion, they call in the rules chairman or the rules authority, and they solve it. And once it's signed, it's done. But that's not happened with all this television call-in, and that's totally wrong. It's never been the case, and why they did it, and the answer was, well, they didn't want to deter a fan base. Well, that's not a fair thing for a player trying to make a living out there.
Right.
One of the first ones that was terrible is Craig Stadler put a towel down underneath a tree.
A tournament. Mismarked his card or forgot to mark it or something. Do you remember that? It's quite a few years back, and he was penalized and quite severely for that. And does this new ruling affect that?
Now, what was that again? Somebody did not mark their roll?
That was.
I forget what it was. It was several years ago during a big tournament. One of the players, and I can't even remember who he was, he either forgot to mark it or he marked it incorrectly or something, and eventually he was penalized for it, and it was quite a big deal. Now, I don't know the exact situation there, but you're saying now like a caddy or somebody else has to double check the scorecard to make it official?
No. When you play an official professional tournament, you don't keep your score. You get one of your playing partners, you keep his score, and at the bottom of that scorecard, there's a perforated tear off, and you keep your score. So if you'll watch closely sometimes, you'll see them in the room, and they'll tear off the bottom piece of that card. Well, that's where they kept their score. So then they take that score and check what the playing partner wrote down, and if there's a discrepancy, they discuss it, and if they can't solve it, then they get a rules person. So you're actually having to watch the other person's score and put yours down, and then you both sign it. So one is signing that you say that's your true score, and the other person is attesting to that. So if there's any conflict there, then you have to call in the rule firm. I think Don remembers that situation. He's talking about the marking.
Yes, it was Roberto De Vincenzo. I think he was Argentinian, and it was I believe it was at the Masters, and he either signed an incorrect card, but I believe he didn't sign his card. And that kept him out of the playoff. Most people believe that he was disqualified and he had won the tournament. That was not the case. There was a playoff between two other players, and the trouble is I don't even remember who they were because this was such a furor at the time. Yeah. But that was who the individual was, and I believe he failed to sign the card and he was disqualified.
So if that would happen nowadays, would the same penalty be in play?
I'm sure it would. But there's enough people standing around that they're not going to let someone get away with not signing a card, especially his caddy.
Right.
Caddy wants to get paid.
Thank you very much for your answer. It was very interesting. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for calling.
Wow, so it's amazing how much you remember about games like that. It's embedded in your memory, huh?
Well, I've followed golf a lot, and it's been very close to my heart.
So are you going to play golf when you retire?
I am retired, and I'm playing as much as I can. Yes.
That's what everybody says, right? If you have a question you'd like to call in, you've got a few minutes left. The number is 622-9622. And is the golf college pretty busy right about now?
The golf college is in full gear right now. We will probably start in the next few weeks to get our theater simulator back in order. But in the meantime, we're doing daily clinics so that people can get some help for a lot less money than a private lesson. And we're doing some free seminars if people want to come in. And it's like a Q&A. And, and then
how do you find out when those are?
They're in the village newspaper like twice a week. And we haven't ventured up into here. We're just barely far enough away that some people think that's a trip, but a lot of golfers might not.
Sure.
That's one reason we did this and these announcements. And then the other thing is, if anybody wants to get what's happening at our facility, we have the email, like a lot of businesses are doing. And our email never has just commercialism. It'll have some monetary benefit, a coupon, a dollar amount discount, or a special. An example would be we even advertise the restaurant. You could come down there for dinner and get a free round of golf.
Wow.
So we're using the golf college and the restaurant as two support avenues to work with the golf course, and they're supporting us, we're supporting them. So we're quite busy right now, and we have something going on nearly every day.
So if I, as a gift, wanted to gift somebody the golf college, lessons, I mean, not your school, but how would I do that? How much would that cost? I'm guessing it varies from.
Well, we will start running next week a gift certificate program, which is called a 25% added value. For an example, if you wanted to spend $100 on someone, then your certificate you give them would say $125.
Oh wow!
So it goes up as high as $400.
Oh wow!
So it's from $100 to $400, and then whatever increment you want, and it would be 25% that the person would be receiving more than what you were paying.
That'd be a good gift.
So I've had a number of women buy a $400 gift certificate, want them to take a full-fledged school, and they're getting a $500.
Okay. So the question I have about it, and I know we're we are out of time, but if I can squeeze in one more. And maybe this is for Don more than you, because you run the golf college. So the question I would have is, if somebody thinks they're good, my thinking, based on what I've heard Jim say, is they could probably get better with a few tips at the golf college. Now, somebody like me, I know right away the golf college is going to help. But somebody who's been doing it a long time, are they going to be insulted if their wife buys them a golf college certificate?
Every golfer wants to be better,
Okay,
regardless of
okay.
their ability. There are always things to work on and improve upon.
Okay.
I don't know of anybody that
Well,
doesn't want to make more putts.
So there's no ego preventing them to actually cash in that certificate, right?
Absolutely not.
Well, I hope not. I mean, it was a great experience, the little sampler that Jim gave us a few years ago. So
You know, and if that should happen, Larry, and they really do think they don't want it, they can turn that back in. They don't have to keep it.
okay.
Once we talk to them, if we can't make them understand the value of it, then they probably wouldn't be a good student anyway. So we'd both fail.
Yeah, that makes
so
sense.
we'll accommodate that. However,
That makes sense.
yeah.
And we have about 30 seconds. What's your phone number?
Number is 352-470-3876.
All right. Jim Beckett, always good to see you and have you in the studio. Don Nix, thank you for coming in. And we'll take a little break and be right back.